Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I will present how to filter my dataset by the list of value, and we will do it both in standard Excel and also in Power Query. First, let's start with Power Query since it's a bit faster and in my opinion a bit easier. So to import our dataset into Power Query, we need to use keyboard shortcut Alt-A-P-T. This is my first table loaded. But I noticed straight away one thing. I imported have this weird name, which I might want or I don't. So in case if you want to change this name, you need to close your Power Query, and best way is to simply change the name by using another keyboard shortcut, which is Alt-J-T-A. And here you can see we are moved into the table name parameter, which now I will name T for table, February data, and this is my table that will be a list that I want to also import, and yes, it's already named our list, so that's fine. So once again Alt-A-P-T to import. Now as you can see, the name here also changed. You can also change the name in the table and then change the name into Power Query, but since it's first time import, this is a bit easier. Now let's close and load only as a connection, and let's import our second table. Sometimes this is better and easier, but you also could duplicate this and rename the table here to our table name for our list. And as you can see, it changed. The thing with this way is that we need to still change the name of our query. But let's delete this and let's go on with our filtering by our list. So now this is a table which is imported into Power Query, and here is our little indicator, our little table icon. To change this into a list, we simply need to specify this column name in square brackets, like this. Now it was converted into a list. One, the header says list, and the second is here, this little icon, which also is simplified version of a list. So now, to filter our data by a set of values, let's do standard filtering option. Here is our trade, and let's pick anything. Now it basically doesn't matter. And as you can see, which is actually obvious, our dataset was filtered, and the syntax is right here. Here we've got our table, select rows, and after each we are specify which rows we want. But this is static. We need this to be dynamic. So let's remove this. Let's remove the brackets. And now let's use List.Contains. Now this IntelliSense is helping us out. First we need to specify our list, and here it says value as any, which actually needs to be our column name. We want to filter in or out. And if we accept, you can see that our trade is specified here: carpenter, laborer and glazier, the exact same ones which are over here in our list. If, however, we want to negate this and have the opposite result, which means we don't want the values that are in our list, it is as simple as negating it by using the not. And now in the trade column we won't find the specified trades. And now when we have our result, we simply import this into Excel. Let's do it in the new worksheet. And this is our list. We don't need this actually, so let's delete this. So to create new sheet, let's press Alt Shift F1. And now let's go to our table which we want to load. Right click, load to, table, existing worksheet and OK. If we want, we can also use the keyboard partially. Right click, load to, and now T for table, and we can also press N for the new worksheet or press E for existing worksheet, and the result is the same. So now when we have loaded our table into Excel, our job is done. So now let's try repeat this in Excel. Here we will be using ByRow and Lambda function, and also new function for the Excel 365, well, not so new, filter. And now let's do this in Excel. So firstly we will need our set of trades we want to filter in or out. Now if you're not familiar, let's meet the filter function. So here we can filter any data set to anything we want which is in this data set. So if I want to filter the whole table by trade, I need to mark this whole table. Now I want to include my trade, which is this column here, and I want this to be equal to carpenter, and as you can see it already is. But what if we want to add more than one value that we want to search in or out? Well, we can do it a bit harder way, in my opinion, which is to use table array formula syntax, which in a way we are already using. But if we use simple plus, and we will repeat this process again by selecting the exact same column and comparing it to another thing we want to look in, like this. I forgot about the parentheses now. Okay, so now as you can see my header is here and my carpenter is selected below, and I need to do this as many times as I have my values in my little table. And as you can see, doing this way, I would have to repeat this process as many times as I have values in my little table. So this solution, if you are using for just one value you want to filter in or out, is fine. But otherwise we need to think differently. Firstly, let's see how standard array syntax behaves. So let's do equal sign. Let's go to our trade column and let's compare this with carpenter. Now as you can see, we received a spelled array with false and trues wherever the values do not equal to the one specified, or true wherever the value is equal to the one specified. So now, if I want to add multiple values, I can do so, but I won't be able to use this syntax in my filter function. Why? I will show you in a minute. So let's open curly brackets and let's manually type trade and let's press enter. Now, as you can see, in my array only the first value is true and everything else is false. This is because only trade is true and it's only a header, so it must be only one. Now I can add in another row another value. So let's add carpenter. Now, as you can see, what is happened is that we are comparing two vertical arrays, and this below the second line is causing an issue with errors. And if we add yet another, we will have the same problem. Only the first three values are true and the rest are errors. But what if we can simply spell this differently? If we switch from the row of our array syntax into the column syntax, now our array looks like this. And here, for the first value in our array, trade, only the first value is true. For the second one, we have second column where it finds carpenters, and the third column when it finds glaziers. This can be seen in cells like this one, and like this one. So we are looking here for trade, carpenter and glazier. So those should be three in a row. Trade, carpenter, glazier. So now what we need to do is somehow combine this into one column. This can be done by using the OR function. If we do it like this, we'll have a true here, and if we go to the bottom and redo it, we will have our set of values that we can use into filter function. But as you can see, this is a quite long way to do it. And yes, I should go straight for the ByRow and Lambda function, but without explaining this and how this works, Lambda and ByRow and by extension filter might be harder to understand. So let's delete this, let's clear this, and let's go to our solution with ByRow and filter and Lambda. So first we need to understand what is ByRow and Lambda. ByRow is function added some time ago to help Lambda function, because ByRow can iterate over each result of our set, and in this case it will iterate over our 3-column array that we will create. So what we have to do is to start by typing the filter option, and the first argument is an array. And let's select the whole table, Control backspace to go to our cell with the formula. Now comma, and now we need to think about what we want to do. We want to iterate over each row, so let's start by this function. And here you can see that we need to specify array and function. So our array should be our whole column of values. And now to use Lambda function. First we need to specify what we want to do. So let's use our parameter name. And now let's do calculation, which we will start with OR, and then we will compare list, which we created just a second ago, to our table of values we want to filter in or out. Let's close list, let's close OR, let's close Lambda, ByRow, and finally filter. Okay, now that we have our result, we can perform another action that we want. So now if you want to have opposite effect, which means that we want to filter out the values from our table, we need to do something very similar. I will copy this table, I will copy this formula, and as you can see, I'm copying only the first cell because this is spilled array and this is how it works. I don't have to worry about how many rows or columns it has because it will automatically spill into the specified cells. However, if in the range that the formula wants to spill is anything other than empty, truly empty cells, we will get an error. So as you can see, this is the table, and if I would have here anything, I will get the spill error, because when I go into that cell, you can see this little dotted line that will specify how big is the spill array, and you can see that within this rectangle there is actually a value which is blocking this spill array to be actually spilled. So as you can see, after deleting the unwanted value, my function spelled correctly. So let's go to the topic of this video. If I want to negate this, I need to do something very similar. I need to change this to only the list of values I don't want. And then I need to change everything that's true into a false and everything that's false into a true. And I can do it by using the not function. And now I have the result I wanted. I filter this whole table by the list of values I want. Here I shown how to do it, and here is the list of values I don't want. So this is how can you filter dataset by list of values in both Excel and Power Query. I hope you enjoyed, and I would like to ask to come visit me in my next video. Thank you and good luck with your Excel.